Welcome to the StockMiner.com studios. I'm your StockMiner Brian Johnson, and we have about 15 seconds before the markets close, so I don't think the chart's going to change all that much. I'm going to go ahead and get a little early start on it because it was just a very not much to talk about day as we saw the markets open down a little to get us started, only to slowly grind their way back up. As you can see here, it looks like we have now come back underneath this blue line within the Dow. None of the other indices are doing this, but the Dow has come back below this blue line here. And it held as what? Yeah, resistance very nicely all day long, going back to what we've seen in the past. So, blue line holding very well for the time being. Still appears it's like one last little push upwards. We could see one more little pullback to here, which could be a four wave finish and then the five wave up. It could go straight up from here. We could see that even tomorrow, potentially within the markets themselves, with a little bit of a gap up. So be watching for that. Overall, the day was pretty stagnant. It really didn't move a whole lot. There were some individual stocks that might have given you opportunities for plays, but the indices did not. So here we are, fighting with the 20 period moving average here. I'll do a quick update. We can see where the 60 finished, and I think it did just almost 11,407 was the 20. 11,406 is really where we fit close enough. We're still right at the 20 period moving average. Not a big deal at this point. The bigger deal is this blue line, but it sure looks like a 1, 2, 3, ABC for a 4. Maybe there's a little bit more of a move down here and we can rechange that count, and then a 5 up. Still looks like there wants to be one more little push to the upside before we see some sort of a pullback sideways. Who knows where we're going to go with the next move? It could be, it doesn't have to be a pullback. Everybody's talking about a drop, a pullback. And you know what? We are definitely in need of one, but it does not have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. So don't get in the mind frame that it is absolutely going to happen, because that's how you end up blowing up your account and making bad choices with your money. We will wait for larger breaks of the areas we've been talking about forever and a day before we make those type of moves. Just don't get sucked into that type of mentality. Right now, all this is even in and by itself over the last couple days, a little bit of a pullback, maybe a high base. So we still are looking for a push up and over that 11,450 mark. You can see today the high was 11,439. Never made that 11,450 area. So watch for pushes up and over that. Maybe carry us into the 11,500, but at that point, remember to be very cautious. Anything can turn at any time, especially in those last remaining bits and pieces of waves to the upside. I'm talking about that since back here, and you can see over the last month now, we've moved a total of, 500 points maybe in the Dow, just in a month. Okay, that's not a real, and it's been like basically up. So it's not a big move necessarily when you look at it in the bigger scheme of things. But as long as it continues to hang up here, it is still neutral to bullish. Nasdaq on a 60 putting in yet another sideways day, coming over to visit the 20 period moving average on the 60 minute, and another sideways day here. This is all bullish. That is nothing but a big high base. Does it have to come back and fill the gap? No, not anytime soon. Heck, look at these. There's gaps all the way up this thing. This thing can continue to the upside as long as it stays high and strong. From a weekly, just started it. Won't talk much about that today since it moved sideways. SPX coming back to retest this 1220. Did dip below it ever so slightly, but quickly got itself back above it. More importantly, closed above it for the day, so it is above 1220, the 20 period on the 60 minute, and still hanging out above this overhead area, which is what I told you on a test of 1220. Look to see if it holds. Sure enough, it has so far, working very well at this point. Larger areas to watch are still way down here. So back below 1220, sure, maybe there's a spec short there, but have to be very careful up in here as the day wandered sideways, which is always and has been forever on this move up. Bullish, has not been bearish when it consolidates like this. Been bullish. And still above this overhead area here on the weekly. Only Monday though. From a daily, look, we had a big spike up in the VIX to start the day. Quickly retreated right back down into these lower numbers. No change in the VIX today, both from a daily and a weekly. And the Apple on a 60-minute was not able to break 320. We had a high of 319.77 today, so my mark is still above 320 for a little bit of a push higher. This could be a 1, 2, 3. Now we could be consolidating sideways here in a 4, waiting for that break to the upside to make a little bit more money on Apple as it rolls upwards. But I'd wait for that break. Don't get ahead of yourself. Still testing the underside of this blue line, but you can see here still holding up very nicely. Regardless, looks like the Dow, or looks like the Nasdaq, move up, pull back, move up, gap, and straight sideways. That is bullish for Apple. Wait for those more major levels to be broken. Weekly, same thing here. We just started the week, can't even see the candle. It's so small, didn't move much today, but still hanging at up and around the 320 area. FAS on a 60-minute, we saw this down 58 cents, but you can see most of the movement happened on a gap down, then moved back up. This is just a nice little, very well managed pullback for the time being. Here on the daily, same type of a thing. I still think 28 plus is in the works for this. Somewhere up in that area, I'll be watching that very closely. FAZ now is put in a little bit of a pullback here as well. It is basing sideways. It could also go up, it could go down, but right now the point being it is still stuck in a sideways consolidation. Daily, same thing. Look how we retested this support right back here. Now it's become resistance. Big deal right here. So everything's holding fine until it gets back up and over around, I'd say 10.85 or $11. I wouldn't be interested in this one at all. Even if it gets above 11, you're watching this blue line for your trade, which is still a good 50, 60 cents up. It's not a bad trade, but you're going to want to wait till it gets back up above those areas before you start even thinking about any kind of a long position in these ETFs. That really is all I have for today, guys. That's just not much more to talk about. We talked a lot yesterday about what to watch in the markets, and today we wandered sideways all day long after a move down to start the day. So we're just sitting and once again waiting for the bulls to resolve this thing one way or the other. I really still do think that this has one little push up. I'd be watching closely to see if that doesn't happen tomorrow, maybe even tomorrow into Wednesday. But this thing could be poised in one of a number of different little scenarios here. But if it does move up, I expect to see potentially even a gap up to start the day and then run itself up a little ways into these higher levels. We'll wait and see if it breaks these levels before we take our entries, and wait for the lower levels as well before you even think about going short right now. All right, we will be back with you again tomorrow night as always. Be careful with your trading. Don't get your bias one way or the other. Let the charts tell you which way to go.